Okay, we're 2 minutes early. We're off to a good start. On behalf of the Indiana County Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, welcome everyone to the 103rd Annual Meeting of the Indiana County Chamber of Commerce. I'm Joe Ruschini, First Vice Chair of the Chamber Board. Thank you all for coming and your continued support. I'd also like to remind you that the Jumbotron adds 50 pounds. Please rise for the presentation of colors by the IUP-ROTC and the singing of the national anthem, led by Amber May Leitch, an IUP junior majoring in music education and music performance.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight were the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets reclear, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Amber, that was outstanding. Please continue to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by County Commissioner Rod Ruddick. Commissioner Ruddick.
Thank you, Joe. While we do the Pledge of Allegiance today, be thinking about our servicemen and servicewomen who are stationed providing our freedoms, and also to give honor to those in public service who wear uniform. I know that many of our police officers, our Sheriff's Department today, have traveled to Central Cambria to recognize and tribute an officer who was killed in the line of duty. So join us all in a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. If everyone will be seated, we'll begin our formal meeting. Feel free to begin eating your salads while we begin the meeting. I now call to order the 2015 Annual Chamber Board of Directors meeting. I would first like to recognize the board and our ex officio members. Please rise when your name is called. Chairman Greg Cepas, Second Vice Chair Todd Bryce, Secretary Kelly Howells, Treasurer Jim Kinnear, Ron Anderson, Mark Brzezinski, Dave Brocious, Jim Calhoun, Dr. Robert Camp, Bill Darr, Dr. Michael Driscoll, Calvin Farron, Rich Fiskus, Ryan Glista, Robin Gorman, Elizabeth Gregg, Carson Green Jr., J.P. Habits, Don Huey, Elizabeth Hutton, Bernie Lockard, Brad Martineau, Mike Moyer, Brian Parks, Sherry Renoski, Josh Rosenberger, Luke Shively, C.J. Spatafora, David Smith, Brett Stewart, Christine Toretti, Greg Van Horn, Jim Wiley, Mark Zillner. And from the Chamber's Executive Committee, Bob Marcus, Mike Donley, and Richard Clausen. I would also like to recognize Chamber President Jim Struzzi. Thank you to all the current and former board members in attendance. I will now ask Secretary Kelly Howells to present the Secretary's report.
Good afternoon. Current board members received the minutes from the 2014 annual meeting in advance, so you should have had the chance to review. I would ask then for a motion to approve the 2014 annual meeting minutes. Okay, and a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
Thank you, Kelly. I'll now ask Treasurer Jim Kinnear to present the Treasurer's report.
Greetings. The 2014-15 fiscal year financial report is on pages 4 and 5 in the annual report that you should have at your seats. Please take a moment to review it. May I have a motion to approve the 2014-15 financial report? And a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I'll now present the slate of nominees for election as directors to the Chamber Board. The 2015 Nominations Committee met on November 5th in the Chamber office. The responsibility of the committee was to review nominees submitted to serve on the Chamber's Board of Directors according to the bylaws. Only a few board positions were available this year. At the November 5th meeting, the Nominations Committee suggested the following actions related to the Chamber Board of Directors beginning on January 1st, 2016. Elizabeth Hutton with K&L Real Estate to be elected to a first 3-year term. Elizabeth had previously been serving an unexpired term. Rich Fiskus with S&T Bank to be elected to a first 3-year term. Rich was also serving an unexpired term. Dave Brocious with the Marcellus Shale Coalition to be elected to a first 3-year term. Dave had been serving as an ex officio board member. May I have a motion to accept the slate as presented? And a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. At this point, I'd like to mention that the Chamber officers will remain the same in 2016. We would also like to recognize and thank Brian Parks with St. Andrews Village for serving 2 full terms on the Chamber's Board of Directors. As per the bylaws, Brian will be stepping down in 2016. With no other business to be brought before the membership this afternoon, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the 2015 annual meeting. Second? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. I would now like to introduce Pastor Dave Henderson with Grace United Methodist Church, who will give the invocation.
It's my kind of meeting, done in 10 minutes, and we're on to lunch. So what a blessing it is to be here with all of you today. Indiana truly is a wonderful place to live and a wonderful place to work. And most of that reason is because of the many professionals that are seated here today and of the businesses and schools that you represent. So it's an honor to be able to share the invocation. Would you bow your heads with me? Almighty God, we give you thanks this day for the opportunity to gather again in fellowship as the Indiana County Chamber of Commerce. Amid all the noise in our lives, especially during this time of year, we are grateful to have the chance today to take this moment and to stand in silence and give you thanks for another day, for all of those people in our lives who have brought us warmth and love, for the freedom we have as Americans, and for the great blessing it is to live and work in the midst of the Indiana community surrounded by such natural beauty and in the company of the fine folks, neighbors, and friends, customers and colleagues, brothers and sisters who make up our town. May our friendships be strengthened and our lives be broadened this day. And as we give thanks now for the food which has been prepared, may you place your blessing upon it. May it strengthen us and nourish us, and ultimately may it make us stronger to go out and to do your will. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Dave. Lunch will now be served. While you eat, please feel free to watch a PowerPoint of 2015 Chamber highlights on the Jumbotron, created by Chamber intern Brianna Rossi. We will resume our program at the conclusion of the meal.
Child is this who lay to rest on Mary's lap, is sleeping, whom angels greet without no sweet, while shepherds watch are keeping. This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him alive, the babe, the Son of Mary. What child is this who lay to rest on Mary's lap, is sleeping, with angels greet with anthem sweet, while shepherds watch are keeping. This
Good afternoon again. In the interest of time, we're going to continue with our program. Please continue to enjoy your meal if you are not yet finished. I'd like to introduce our honored guests at the head table. Feel free to wave or stand if you wish. County Commissioners Rod Ruddick, Patty Ivanko, and Mike Baker. County Executive Planning Director Byron Stauffer. Unfortunately, Senator Don White and House Representatives House Majority Leader, State Representative Dave Reed, Representative Chris Dush, and Representative Jeff Pyle are in Harrisburg today and are unable to attend. We also would also like to recognize Commissioner-elect Shireen Hess, Caitlin King with Senator Toomey's office, Joe Pittman with Senator White's office, and Jonathan Longwell with Representative Dave Reed's office. Also Chad Horner with Representative Chris Dush's office, and Jim Frank and Ron Noko with Congressman Schuster's office. The Chamber would also like to offer special thanks to our luncheon sponsors helping to make this event possible. Our platinum sponsors are the Ruskini Group, Phoenix Spa and Salon, Palladio, S&T Bank, First Commonwealth Bank, and Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Our gold sponsors are Reliant Holdings, Forever Media, and Diamond Medical Supply. Our silver sponsor is Walmart. We also have 3 bronze level sponsors, Trib Total Media, Highmark, and H&W Global. And finally, 5 flower sponsors, A New Home Health, K&L Real Estate, Catalyst Connection, Kazneski Financial Group, and the Indiana Gazette. You've been watching their logos on the screen throughout the presentation, and our higher level sponsors are featured in the annual report. We are truly grateful for their support. Please give our sponsors a round of applause. Thank you. I'd like to introduce the Board of Directors Chairman, Greg Cepas. Greg.
Thank you, Joe. Good afternoon, and thank you for attending. It's been a great morning / afternoon so far, and I hope everybody enjoyed their meal or is enjoying their meal as we speak right now. As you know, County Commissioner Patty Ivanko is retiring this year. On behalf of the Chamber, we'd like to thank Patty for her years of dedication and service to Indiana County. Patty, would you please come forward and say a few words? Thank you. Please give her a round of applause.
I'm a little short. Thank you. I guess I'm caught off guard because I don't know what to say, and I don't want to cry. But I've made a lot of acquaintances as a commissioner, but I've made a lot of friends. And looking out in the audience, I see a lot of those friends. I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss what I've done as a commissioner and with the team I've worked with. But as much as you welcomed me with open arms, I hope you welcome Shireen Hess with the same open arms, because she will be great. There'll be another great Board of Commissioners. I will miss you. I thank you for everything. The Chamber, I thank you for everything. I thank you for welcoming me to your board meetings. I thank you for letting me be part of this and everything since I've been a commissioner. So thank you, and I will miss all of you. Thank you.
On behalf of the Chamber, we want to say one final thank you, and you're invited to come back to any of our meetings that we ever have because we very much appreciate your input. So with that, we're going to provide you with this plaque on behalf of the Chamber. Thank you for your dedicated service to Indiana County and to the Indiana County Chamber of Commerce. Again, a round of applause for Commissioner Ivanko. I'll give you a hug. You have other stuff I need. Oh. Oh. With that, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, Dennis Yablonsky, CEO of the Allegheny Conference. Founded in 1944, the Allegheny Conference on Community Development is one of the nation's leading economic and community development organizations, combining strong private sector leadership with commitment from public sector partners. Their strategic focus is creating a more competitive economic climate and marketing the Pittsburgh region for investment, job creation, and talent. A native of the Pittsburgh region, Dennis is an accomplished and experienced veteran managing and leading dynamic business growth. As a private business leader, a nonprofit economic development professional, and a high-ranking and appointed government official. With that, I please give a round of applause to Dennis Yablonsky.
Thanks, Greg, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today, and I know all keynote speakers say that, and I suspect they all mean it, but in my case, what I'm going to do over the next 15 or 20 minutes is the favorite part of my job. And I have a lot of things I like about my work, but my favorite thing is to have an opportunity to talk to fellow business people about all the good things that are going on in this place we call the Pittsburgh region, but to also talk to you about the things that are challenging us, and that if we don't stare them in the face and deal with them directly, it'll slow the momentum that we've been building down. And so hopefully at the end of the next 15 minutes you will agree with me that this is something I like to do and that my enthusiasm will come through. So the outline for the talk is very simple. I'm going to give you some fun facts and figures about the current state of the regional economy. And when I say the regional economy, I'm talking about the 10-county metropolitan statistical area referred to as Greater Pittsburgh, of course, of which Indiana County is a part. 2, briefly tell you a little bit about how we got here over the last 30 years, because there's some interesting lessons to be learned in those comments. 3, what are some of the big strategic challenges we're facing? And the flip side, some of those challenges are also opportunities. And then on that third part, I'm also going to kind of weave in my comments and thoughts about how I think Indiana County can take advantage of all this. So I hope that works for you, because that's all I got. So in any case, first of all, some fun facts. There are more people working in Greater Pittsburgh than ever before in our history. Way more than at the peak of our industrial era in the late 70s and early 80s. That's been true. I'm seeing some of the reactions. That always happens. People look at me like, is he making this up? No, I can actually give you all the facts around it. Way more than at the peak of our industrial era in late 1970s and early 1980s. And it's been the case for over 2 years now. And while the economists argue about what the rate of growth looks like going forward, no one is saying that the line's not going up. So more people working than ever before. 2, contrary to popular belief, the jobs we're adding are higher pay than the jobs we're losing. 43% of the people that work in the 10 counties are in what the national economists call high pay occupations. The national average for a major metro is 37%, and our number's been rising. So we're adding better paying, family sustaining jobs. Last year, 2014, there were 274 public announcements by corporations in this region related to expansion projects. 274 public expansions. It was the third highest number of a major metro in the Northeast, and that's in raw numbers, not in a per capita adjusted. So the corporations are speaking with their money here, continuing to do expansions. Our population is growing for the first time in 2 decades, and interestingly, getting on average younger and on average better educated. And I could dive into the details on that, but younger and better educated. And as of this morning, for those of you who are familiar with our job aggregation site, imaginepittsburgh.com, there were a little over 25,000 open jobs in the 10 counties, and we don't include the minimum wage jobs in that number. Those are all the jobs that I would put in the family sustaining category. That number has been over 20,000 for over 3 years now, and it's been as high as 30,000. More on that later on. So all of those things hopefully lead you to the conclusion that the region overall is doing something right now. And we continue to get accolades for it. I mean, not a month goes by where we don't get on some national ranking. We've been ranked the most livable region in the country 4 years in a row. We've been ranked recently by Huffington Post as the best region in America for recent graduates from our 36 colleges and universities. By the way, interesting statistic, you know we graduate 40,000 young people a year from our 36 colleges and universities, 40,000 a year. One of the best, or the best place in the country for them. One of the lowest cost places to do business in the country. National Geographic magazine last year ranked us one of the top 20 places to visit for tourism as a region. There were only 2 in that list of 20 that were in the United States, Sonoma, California, and Pittsburgh. I'm from McKeesport. This is just amazing to me that Pittsburgh ended up on this list. And then semi-humorously, we were ranked the 3rd happiest place in the country, and in a corollary rating, we had the #1 ranking of bars per capita in America. So I think the two kind of go, right? Yeah, sure. That goes together. Any guess what the least happy place in the country was? Anybody have a guess? Cleveland. Yeah. Hate to pick on the downtrodden, but Cleveland. But in any case, and I could go on and on, there are third-party entities that are verifying some of the facts and figures I gave, that this place is a different place than it was when I was growing up, or even when I was a young adult. And we've gone from, one more statistic, the low point was 1983 in our economic history. 18.3% unemployment on average in the 10 counties. Think about that. Today we have a 5% unemployment, and it's still painful. That 5% translates into 135,000 people out of work. Do the math on 18%. We lost 100,000 manufacturing jobs, 250,000 people left this region, and we get reminded of it 8 times every year when the Steelers play in at an away game, and the stands are always filled with all those terrible towel-waving Steeler fans, and the announcers always say, if you pay attention, they always say, boy, those Steeler fans really travel well. That's wrong. Those people live there. That's a living, breathing reminder of the loss that occurred here in the late 70s and early 80s. Fortunately, Pittsburghers never lose their loyalty to all things Pittsburgh, and particularly their sports teams, but that's a living, breathing reminder. So the question, of course, is how the heck did this happen? How do we go from there, 1983, to some of the facts and figures I gave you now? And the answer is pretty interesting, and it begins a lesson, I think, for all of you. For 10 years, we wrung our hands as a region. We kept looking back to what we were as opposed to looking forward. It wasn't until the early 90s, and I'm happy to say that the organization that I have the privilege to run was the leader in all this. They basically spent 2 years doing what you would think of as a cluster analysis. They had Michael Porter from Harvard come in. The then president of Carnegie Mellon, Robert Moravian, led the charge. Over 200 people were involved. And basically, they looked at all of our economic sectors and decided there were 5 sectors where we had competitive advantage, where we could grow an economy, and that if we concentrated on them, we'd do well. And the decision was reached that we would do that. And fundamentally, they didn't give up. The conclusion was, don't give up on what we were good at, which was making things, financing the making of things, and providing the energy that you need to make things. And so those three sectors were targeted for revitalization, if you will. Two, we weren't taking as much advantage of our institutions of higher learning and our medical centers and all the entrepreneurship and new ideas and creativity that comes out of that. We need to do a better job. I came out of that world. I spent 24 years in the software industry, initially outside of the region. I came back in '87 to run a Carnegie Mellon artificial intelligence software company. When I came back in '87, there were 50 of us. There were 50. We all knew each other. Today, there's over 1,600 tech companies in the region and another 500 health science-related technology companies, most of whom emanated out of universities or hospital environments and were created. So we created this knowledge economy. And then third, we invested in the quality of the place. We put money back into making Pittsburgh and Indiana and Washington, PA, and Greensburg, et cetera, good central locations. You put it all together, and we went from a place that was 50% dependent on one sector and the supply chain that supported it to 5 balanced, diversified, innovation-driven sectors: manufacturing, energy, finance, technology, and the eds and meds, where the largest of those 5 is 23% of the regional economy. So you have a balanced, diversified, innovation-driven economy, which gives you risk management ability as things go up and down. If you look back at '08, '09, the Great Recession that occurred, you look at the places that suffered the most, they were places that were heavily dependent on one sector of their economy. We fared very well. As a matter of fact, we were the 3rd region to recover all the jobs we lost in '08 and '09. 3rd. There are still regions, I won't mention names, but there are still regions that have less people working than they did in 2008. So, great news. What are the challenges? What are the things that could get in the way? And this isn't me talking, this is the business community talking. In the spring of 2014, I personally hosted 51 90-minute listening sessions throughout the region, including one in this building, where we went around and talked to all of our members, and over 90% of them attended, and basically said, what's getting in the way of you growing your business? What problems are you having? What do you think the Allegheny Conference should work on? And a couple of things emerged. Overwhelming #1 issue: we can't find enough people to meet our hiring needs with the right skills. Okay, and I go back to that website. Why are there still 25,000 open jobs on that website? Why we add 1,000 new? We hired from July 15 to July 14. We added 32,000 people in this region. Why did that number not go down? 3 reasons. Reason #1. There is a huge disconnect in terms of the skills that the people looking for jobs have and the skills that the hirers are looking for. And a lot of that relates to STEM as an overstatement or an oversimplification, but 57% of those jobs require a heavy technology skill component. 2/3 of those jobs do not require a 4-year college degree, but they do require high school plus. We have a disconnect in terms of the supply and the demand out there. That's the first thing. The second thing, we have 278,000 baby boomer retirement eligible people that are going to leave the workforce over the next 10 years in this region. And that number, we've already seen the beginnings of that. The problem is that the cohort coming up behind it, there are 144,000 less 25 to 45-year-olds in this region than there are 45 to 65-year-olds. So just to stay even, we have to replace somehow 144,000 people, which means we have to attract them in from outside. We have to retain more of our college students. We have to lift up more of the 135,000 unemployed, or we have to make more babies. And the conference is involved in the first 3. The 4th one I will leave to somebody else. But we've got to do something to address that dynamic. The last element, we are the least diverse major metro in the United States. And you can look around the room and validate it. Out of the 100 top metros, we have the least number of people that are minorities and immigrants. It's 13% today. The good news is up from 11% 2 years ago, so it's going in the right direction. It's 13%. The national average is 32%. 100 years ago, when my grandparents came here, we might have been the most diverse place, particularly ethnically. Why is that the case today? In large part, for 20 years, there were no opportunities, and as the mass of international and domestic minority immigration occurred, it passed Pittsburgh by. You might be thinking, okay, but so what? Well, so what? Demographics in the United States do not support the workforce of our history. 55% of the new births in the United States last year were minorities and immigrants. That number's only going to get bigger. Pure numbers, you will not be able to meet your workforce needs over the next 10 to 20 years with an all-white, male in particular, workforce. Number two, if you're interested in millennials, and most companies are for a whole bunch of good reasons, millennials in part make their location decisions based upon, yeah, where's opportunity, do I have the right transportation network, but very high criteria is this an integrated, inclusive, diverse environment, the kind of place I want to live, build a family, and raise kids. So diversity is an issue that has to be dealt with. I happen to believe with the history you've got here, the collaborative spirit that exists here with IUP and other institutions, this is an area that you could turn into an advantage for Indiana County. The second challenge is infrastructure. Roads, bridges, rail, water and sewer, pad-ready sites, et cetera, et cetera. One of the beauties of this place, I drove up here this morning, of course, from Pittsburgh. It's beautiful. I mean, the topography is rolling hills. It's wonderful, rivers, et cetera. It's a wonderful place. It's a nightmare as a result for building infrastructure. It's expensive, time-consuming, and risky. But we've got to deal with it. I'm proud to say that under Governor Corbett's leadership, we were able to pass a significant transportation bill that's going to invest eventually $2.5 billion a year into roads and bridges and rail in this state. We absolutely needed that. Our Congress is on the verge of doing the same thing with a 5-year surface transportation bill. It's going to make a major difference. We're moving in the right direction. We now have an opportunity in this region to do something we haven't done for decades, and that is to, as a group, decide what we want our transportation network to look like. And we got a vision of that as part of our planning process in 14. 95 of us, business, philanthropic, and government leaders, went to Denver for 2.5 days, saw a lot of interesting stuff, but then the thing we were the most impressed with, they developed a regional transportation vision, they sold it to their people, and they funded it almost entirely locally, and they're putting $10 billion into a transportation network that is attracting people by the hordes. They've added 1 million people in that region in the last 20 years. 1 million people. We walked away and said, okay, that's great, but there's nothing about what they did that we couldn't replicate. And so we are in the process now. We have an initiative that includes all 10 counties in the city of Pittsburgh. It's called the Regional Transportation Alliance. We have an initiative where we're going to develop that vision. We're going to hopefully get a consensus around it, and then we're going to work on selling everybody in this region on the importance of it and how we go about implementing it. We've got to make that work. The other thing that's important are sites. You might find it interesting if I gave you a list of the top 4 criteria businesses look for when they make location decisions. Workforce is number 1, cost is number 2, infrastructure in general, particularly transportation and water, is number 3. Number 4, available pad-ready sites or buildings. Guess which one of those is the number 1 reason why we lose competitive projects? You don't have to answer, but just think about it. It's the last one. We lose twice as many projects because of a lack of sites and a lack of buildings than any other factor. The good news is you've got an inventory here. You've got a couple of great projects, the 119 Business Park, Windy Ridge, and some others. We need to do a better job of marketing that. I'm not saying you do, we do. My organization, the PRA, needs to do a better job. But having sites ready to go is one of the big issues and something that I think we can take better advantage of here. The third challenge is rethinking the sector analysis. We did that cluster work over 20 years ago, and now the question is, which one should we be concentrating on? And the answer to that question is not a 10-county answer, it's almost a county by county. One of my thoughts for you all is that you ought to do some version of what the region did in 1991, and that is take a good hard look at your strengths, your weaknesses, identify which sectors you want to go after, and then focus on them. At a very high level, economic development is done in 3 subsets. And it's really, I've been doing this for a while, it's really this simple. 1, you can retain and grow your own. That part of economic development tends to be overlooked too often, and it's a shame because no matter how good you are at the rest of economic development, and I'll get to that in a minute, the bulk of your jobs, either gains or losses, are going to come from your existing base. And so a proactive strategy to work with, identify problems before they become disasters, and retain and grow your own is job one. Job two, the second biggest segment of jobs comes from startup companies. And that ranges from high-tech, high-growth organizations that come out of universities to mom-and-pop Main Street businesses that provide services. Once again, not enough focus, in my opinion, in most areas, and this is not an Indiana County-specific comment, it's a more general comment, more focus on what can we do to lever our institutions of higher learning, our institutions of healthcare, which have people that have innovative ideas and opportunities to start new businesses with real growth potential. The third, attracting business from outside the region, is where most of the press comes and most of the notoriety comes, but frankly, it's always going to be the smallest percentage of jobs for you. And we'll keep doing that. And that's part of my organization's job, one of our affiliates, the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance. Our job is to market the region, generate leads, and then eventually turn them over to Indiana County and to Armstrong County, et cetera, et cetera. And we will keep doing that with you, and we have a great partnership in that regard. But what you can do under your control is figure out better ways to focus on retaining and growing your own and figuring out a better startup environment here. So finally, we spent a couple hours this morning before the meeting talking amongst ourselves. I've always been impressed with and pleased to be a partner with Indiana County. Today, what I heard was even more encouraging, because maybe the most important criteria that you need to be successful is that you all get along, think alike, compromise, and work together. And I can't say that that's true certainly all throughout the region and all throughout the state, but in Indiana County, I can absolutely affirm that your leadership group gets it, is passionate about it, and is fully able to work together on these problems. If you don't have that, strategies are hard to implement. But if you do have that, you can make a lot of different strategies work. So I'm very optimistic about the future of this area. As a partner with you, we will continue to work with you on that. As a matter of fact, one of the things we're going to be doing early next year, our organization is completing a 10-year forward look on where the jobs are going to be 10 years from now. We have a real good handle on where they are today, but 10 years from now, I guarantee it's going to be different. Using various pretty sophisticated modeling techniques, we're going to have, by the end of the first quarter of next year, a real good picture of where jobs are going to be 10 years from now, and we hope to be able to work with you to use that data to help you develop a strategy that's specifically focused on Indiana County. So, in any case, I appreciate the opportunity to have a chance to talk with you. I hope my enthusiasm for our work and our region came through, and I stand ready to be, along with our team, a good partner and to work with you to build the ongoing future of Indiana County. I hope it was interesting and helpful. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you, Dennis. I think that was very resounding, and we would like to present, on behalf of Indiana County, the Chamber of Commerce, we would like to present you with a gift, and it's Indiana's first snowfall.
Thank you very much. Oh, that's great. That'll go in a place of honor. Okay. Thank you.
Well, as I was listening to Dennis, two things became two observations I have, is that he had one sheet of paper and he talked for 15 minutes, so you guys are in trouble. and secondly, he stole the theme of my speech, so it's going to be somewhat redundant, but I think that that's very, I think that it's important to show that it's, what my passion is right now for the next year, and what the Chamber's passion is also the passion of the region. So I embrace your partnership, the partnership that we have in a meeting next year. Quite a year. As I reflect back on 2015, I have the following thoughts. It was a very difficult first quarter. We were hit with closings of the Giant Eagle Express, the Indiana Movie Theater, and the announcement at Halliburton that they were moving to Ohio. That's not quite what I had in mind when I took the position over for the way this thing was going to start. You couple this with the overall downturn in the oil and gas industry in general, and again, it was not the start that I had hoped for. The elimination of these jobs, if not addressed, can not only impact those directly affected, but also have a secondary impact on the local restaurants, hotels, apartments, etc. In fact, I became concerned to the level where I was starting to compare it to the late 90s when R&P coal closed, to a lesser level. So at that stage in the game, I asked a friend of mine, Bob Marcus, I said, well, what did you do at that point in time? Who was then the chair of the chamber. He said his major focus was education, re-education of the workforce. But before I go there, I want to reiterate what a great community we live in. Prior to the news hitting, we had companies such as Force Trucking, Delaney, et cetera, saying, I need drivers to talk to Halliburton. CareerLink reached out to those employees affected, offering financial consulting through the local banks. This was all done through a coordinated effort of the CEO, which we've talked about, and Byron Stauffer taking the lead. The movie theater has since came back. It's now spit-shined. It looks great. And Giant Eagle is under, there's various discussions by various people as to what we're going to do to replace that hole that currently exists in the center of town. Now back to education. You can easily look at the displaced workers or the underemployed workers and stop there. These individuals are in need, and it's important that we do help out those individuals in whatever way that we can. But we must look deeper than that. We must look at the next generation of workforce, as Dennis had alluded to, and the next generation of employer, and not focus on the past and hope that those jobs will magically reappear. I am a lifelong resident of this county, and I am one of the few from my graduating class that was able to stay home. Again, to Dennis's point on the terrible towels. We have an opportunity before us at this present time to make a difference, providing a better education to the students of this county through the STEM Academy pathways in fields such as energy, applied sciences and engineering, and the biomedical healthcare fields. Again, does this sound familiar? This will give the students of this county the tools they need to be successful in our ever-changing business world. At this meeting 1 year ago today, we announced the award of a $2 million RCAP grant. This, along with previous grants, has resulted in $3.4 million available for this project. I do not stand here before you today saying in its present state that I'm an advocate for. But what I am an advocate for is making sure that we don't take a pass on this. We must look forward and advance this STEM curriculum in a meaningful and thoughtful way. So then what? Where are the jobs? Indiana County remains blessed in that we are presently at an unemployment rate of approximately 5.5%. Very good compared to 7% nationally. Not so good for the state. We're somewhere around, I think the rank I saw was 43rd. To obtain a goal of our lower unemployment, we must both, again, similar theme, open the front door and watch the back door. Major employers in this county, such as IRMC, IUP, Krebs, and Diamond Drug, to name a few, have spent substantial dollars over the past 2 years to update their physical plants to ensure their long-term sustainability. To support the northern and southern parts of the county, the submission of RCAP grants have occurred to assist in retention and creation of jobs. In addition, the financial institutions continue to report strong earnings and provide the much-needed funds for economic development. To open the front door, we must act on the strengths of the county, the quality of life elements that exist in this county. To name a few, as we've talked about, low cost of living, vibrant downtowns, quality schools, access to the state-of-the-art medical care, a hard-working workforce, IUP, and the close proximity to Pittsburgh. The combination of these quality of life elements with the economic drivers, such as the major one that Dennis talked about, pad-ready sites in locations, Windy Ridge and Homer City, low cost and abundant supply of natural gas, and an adequate supply of hotel rooms adds up to success. We must actively market through the CEO, and more importantly, through you as our local businesses, companies that can benefit from these attributes. With a future trained workforce in future looking industries, as I previously outlined in STEM, we stand a better than average chance of success in generational sustainability and not just plugging holes. It is definitely time to play offense. We must continue to improve, connect the dots of our transportation networks both east and west through ongoing improvements on Route 422. Also, the improvements to the airport are close to being finalized. Make no mistake, this is an important recruitment tool for businesses looking to relocate to our region and must be a priority to finalize in 2016. To switch gears, the Chamber last year formed a Business Hall of Fame of Indiana County. This display, if you hadn't noticed, it's on display in the lobby of the KCAC. The Hall of Fame committee includes Bob Kane, Chuck Spatafor, Christine Toretti, Mike Donnelly, Bob Marcus, Jim Wiley, John Buzovicki, Jim Struzzi, and myself. For the 2016 class to the Hall of Fame, we followed the same process as we did last year. The selection committee voted and stack ranked all of the nominations submitted by either chamber members, by the entire chamber membership. And as the bylaws state, we stack ranked them for living and deceased. I'm here today very pleased to announce the 2016 class for the Hall of Fame. First, the deceased, Edward K. Bratton, longtime owner with his partners of the Indiana Giant Eagle store. Robert Bob Dugan, former president, CEO, and director of S&T Bank. Andrew J. Kazneski Jr., founder of the Kazneski Financial Group in 1966. The living members, Jacob Krebs, partner of Krebs United Publications. Steve Wolf, president and CEO of Indiana Regional Medical Center. And although last year we didn't recognize an individual as the chairman selection category, this year we did. What is the chairman selection? Each year, the existing chairman, myself, may select a business, political, or civic leader to be honored and inducted based on a significant impact he or she has had on the economic advancement of Indiana County. The individual must either be an existing or previous resident of Indiana County, and this individual must also be approved by the Hall of Fame board. This year, we selected Senator Don White. Don has, throughout his life and career as a business leader and state senator, had a profound impact on improving the business community in Indiana County and our region. This class will officially be inducted into the hall during a formal dinner at the KCAC in June 2016. I ask you all, please make sure to attend. Finally, see, more pages didn't mean I was going to continue on. Finally, I know Joe will have some thank yous, but I do too. First, I would like to thank my beautiful wife of soon to be 25 years, Sandy. She is my best friend and has supported me in all my various professional and personal ventures throughout our relationship. I love you. Secondly, I would like to thank my employer, First Commonwealth, and Mike Price, for allowing me to be involved in organizations such as the Chamber. I have also been married to First Commonwealth for 25 years. And I sure hope a divorce is not imminent. Next, I would like to thank Jim Struzzi, Jill Mountain, and the entire Chamber staff. Indiana County is truly blessed to have Jim as our standard bearer, and I desire one day to have the energy that he brings to the table every day. Finally, I would like to thank you, the Chamber membership, for giving me such an honor to be part of this leadership. The Chamber is both financially healthy and in good hands. Membership has both stabilized and increased in 2015. And my hope is that the business community is realizing the benefits of being a Chamber member. I do not take this job lightly, and I promise, through God's grace, to continue to wake up each morning trying to make Indiana a better place to live. I thank you. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Greg. Well done. Before we conclude, I'd like to thank our lunch planning committee, Sherry Renoski, Lori Kuzneski, Robin Gorman, Penny Perman, Jim Struzzi, Byron Stauffer, and Bill Darr. I'll also echo Greg's comments and thank the Chamber staff for all of their hard work throughout the year, and in particular making this event happen. Jim Struzzi, Jill Mountain, Emily Vargo, Brianna Rossi, and Marissa Nocia. Thanks also to the IUP-ROTC, Amber May Leitch, Dr. Driscoll and IUP, the KCAC, and our wait staff today, and again, special thanks to all of our sponsors. Please rise for the retiring of the colors. That concludes our program. It is approximately 1:15. Bob Kane is breathing a sigh of relief because he doesn't know this, but if we were here past 1:30, he was going to have to give each of you $1. Before you leave, please check the back of your program for a special colored sticker. If you have the sticker, you have won the centerpiece at your table. Thank you all again for coming today. Please use both the right and left exits at the rear of the arena when leaving, and happy holidays.